And so you abused steroids for 5+ years, all to do a bodybuilding competition of which you didn't even enjoy. Coach Greg, and in today's video, we're going to be going over and talking about a 16-year-old boy who decided to use anabolic steroids. Now remember, this is not me speculating. He openly admits to taking performance-enhancing drugs, namely steroids. He's done one complete cycle, and now he's cruising. And so let's get right into it.
How old are you?
16.
16?
And so the question's asked, how old are you? 16 years old. He's like, really? And the reason for that is, look at the size of a kid. Both in the face, the body, guy looks way larger than an average 16-year-old. And so when he asks, are you in fact natural? And he responds, no, I'm not. He says, really? He's shocked. But the reality of the world today is this is far more common than you think. You might think, wow, a 16-year-old steroid, that's shocking. It never happens. There are perhaps millions of teenagers around the world who are using and abusing anabolic steroids. And more often than steroids, it's actually, in fact, SARMs. But the reason why it's so shocking is because most will never admit
People
it.
try to say that when I was in high school, 190, that I was on SARMs. When I was bulked up.
You were never on SARMs.
There are millions of kids around the world who are on either SARMs, steroids, whatever, without their parents' knowledge. And so think of it. Alex Eubank says, Dad, when I was living with you, was I on SARMs? Father responds, you were not. I mean, he looks at the camera, smiles, and says, see, my dad says I was never on SARMs. And so when you see a 16-year-old admit to taking steroids, you're thinking, wow, it's so rare, it never happens. Parents watching it, oh my goodness, there's actually a 16-year-old that takes steroids? It is far more common than you think. There's almost always a kid in high school, and oftentimes in junior high school, and they're on steroids. And so really think about it. Really analyze how big this problem is.
I wouldn't let him do it. It wasn't allowed.
He wasn't allowed to do it because his dad said so. Listen, how many of you watching this right now have never done anything behind your parents' back? Perhaps you were drinking or perhaps smoking something you weren't. Maybe it was a cigarette or something else. Did you ever sneak out of your house? Your parents were away, you went to your friend's house, and you did something you shouldn't. I mean, in today's age, many parents don't even know which gender their kids identify as, let alone know if they're using steroids. And so his father said he wasn't allowed. And I'm sure most parents are saying, hey, you can't take steroids, you can't do drugs, you can't drink, you can't do this, you can't do that. But oftentimes, kids, they just don't listen.
Let him do calisthenics only until he turned 16. He couldn't lift a weight until he turned 16. That was the rule.
Ah, well, that's the secret. He only let Alex do calisthenics until he was 16. And so this guy's parents, had he said, hey, you can only do calisthenics, he never would have touched steroids. He would have been 100% natural his entire life. Really? You really think that's going to stop someone? If anything, it might lead them to use it even more. Oh, I'm behind now. I want to start lifting at 10 like Coach Greg did. I wasn't allowed till I was 16. Now I'm going to play catch up. I'm going to use SARM, steroids, something else to catch up and build the muscle that I want to build because I wasn't allowed to lift weights. And so if you're a parent out there, it's okay to let your kids lift weights. Lifting weights does not lead to people using steroids. Having body dysmorphia, not liking yourself, having enough self-esteem, that can lead to using performance-enhancing drugs.
You natty or not, bro? You're looking jacked.
Not natty.
You're not, really?
Not natty.
Wow, I respect the honesty, bro. Okay.
And so what's truly shocking here is not the fact that he's using steroids, but that he's openly admitting it. The guy's interviewing him. He's like, wow, I really respect the honesty because it's so rare. Imagine out of 100 kids who are using steroids, if you ask them, are you using steroids openly in front of a camera, how many of them do you think are actually going to admit it? Not many, perhaps one. And so this guy, very rare. And so he says, you look 19 or 20 years of age. He's like, yeah, but I'm not natty. That's why I look so much bigger. That's why I look older. He knows this. He knows what he's doing. He wants to be an IFBB pro bodybuilder. But listen, this is not how you do it. If you start taking steroids this early, it will literally limit your ultimate growth potential. When you take steroids before you reach your natural genetic limit, before you even learn how to train, before you learn how to diet, you don't know what you're doing. If you can't learn how to eat and train effectively without steroids, how do you know that the training you're doing is actually working? You're on steroids, anything you do, it's going to work. But is it going to work optimally? And because you're making these kind of gains now at the age of 16 with steroids, when you get older, you're going to have to up the dose. If you continue to use the same dose or go down to even HRT, you're not going to continue to build muscle. And so what happens is you rely on the drugs. He's only 16 years of age, and if he stops the drugs, he's going to lose muscle. He's not going to enjoy the gym, and so he's going to go back on cycle. And what was his first cycle?
In a few years, like my 20s, I want to go for my pro card.
Oh, so you're going big.
And so the title of the video I'm watching is 16-year-old bodybuilder on steroids. But he's not actually a bodybuilder. He's just a kid that goes to the gym. He wants to be a bodybuilder in the future, in his 20s. He's still got 4 years before he even hits 20. And so do you really think you need to take steroids for 4 straight years before you can compete as a bodybuilder? I did my first show at 18, 100% natural. Did I look massive? Was I huge? No. Did I win? You bet I did. And so why do you have to use steroids? Even the Trend twins are 22 years of age. They said they trained for 8 years natural before they started taking steroids. This guy is only 16. Has he been training for 8 years? And even if he did, should he be taking steroids already? Of course not. This is ridiculous. Everyone should at least be doing their first show 100% natural. See what it's like. What is it like to diet and train natural?
So I did, one cycle. I'm not going to disclose what, but it wasn't much. It was like any beginner's first cycle.
And so his first cycle, he says it's the typical beginner cycle. And what that means typically is about 500 milligrams of test a week. That's what people consider to be a typical beginner cycle. Can be a little bit less, but could be a little bit more. And in fact, for many people, it's a lot more. But I'm going to guess he was doing 500 milligrams of test a week. And after that, did he do a post-cycle therapy, a PCT, cycle off steroids, give his body a break? Nope. He decided to cruise. Do you know what cruise means? Cruise means you continue to take steroids just at a lower dose when you're on a blast. A blast is a full-on cycle, while a cruise is a smaller cycle that allows you to keep all the gains that you've made. You're basically reducing the drugs you're taking so that you give your body a small break, but it's not really a break. Your testosterone production, it's still shut down. You're still doing damage to your body, just less damage than you were before. And you know what he's going to do next? He's going to go on another cycle, another blast using higher doses, and most likely going to do higher doses and use more anabolic steroids than last time. This cycle repeats itself year after year. And every year you continue to do further damage to your body. The most important problem with bodybuilders using steroids is they can develop an early heart attack. And so something he really needs to check, aside from seeing a doctor, psychologist, talking about what he's doing, somebody trying to help him to stop before it's too late, is he needs to check his blood pressure. High blood pressure and using steroids, this can lead to early onsets of getting heart attacks. And of course, blood work and so on. But do you really think at 16 years of age, he's going to go up to his doctor and say, hey, I'm abusing steroids. Can I get checked out? I want to make sure I'm doing it safe. You can't do it safe when you're a teenager. But of course, he wants to be a bodybuilder. I'm sure he knows who Chris Bumstead is. Chris started anabolic steroids at only 18 years of age. This is even earlier than that. It's far too young. There's plenty of time to become a bodybuilder in your 20s. Think of it. At 16, how does he even know he wants to bodybuilder in his 20s? Have you ever wanted to do something when you're young, and then later on you stop enjoying that and you want to do something else? Why is he starting so young? Bodybuilding might be fun now, but perhaps in his 20s, he'll want to do another sport. Perhaps he'll like basketball, badminton, cycling, running, swimming. You don't know. And so why use a drug 5 years before you even plan on competing in that sport when you don't even know you're liking that sport in the long run?
Try it out. See how it is. But, I don't recommend it to, if you're not going to compete, don't do it.
And so he states, I don't recommend it. I don't think you should do it if you're not going to compete. But in reality, we don't even know if he'll be able to compete. Not everyone can handle the diet. If you can't train natural as a teenager and get through one contest prep without the use of performance-enhancing drugs, not be able to diet to single-digit body fat, how do you know you're even going to like it? Yeah, you might be on steroids. You might have a ton of muscle. But perhaps once you diet down to 10% body fat, you hate your life. You don't like the fact that you're starving, the fact you don't have any energy, the fact that you have to eat perhaps chicken, broccoli, and rice because you don't have my cookbook. And so you hate your life and diet and everything. And so you end up doing the show, hate it, don't get lean enough, and you quit. And so you abuse steroids for 5+ years, all to do a bodybuilding competition of which you didn't even enjoy. And so imagine he's 22 years of age, he's done his first show, ends up not even liking it, didn't like the diet, and says, I don't ever want to do this again. He decides, yeah, all those years of using steroids, I'm not going to do it anymore. Imagine the damage he's done to his body, the years he's taken off his life. Is it really worth it? So my advice, at least do your first show natural. I mean, really, if you're a teenager, you don't need to use steroids. You're already going through puberty. Your hormones are through the roof. It's the easiest time to put on muscle. You have newbie gains. Make the most of it without the use of performance-enhancing drugs. If you do, in fact, use steroids at this age, you may, in fact, regret it. When you're older, you'll look back and think, why was I such a moron? Why didn't I listen to Coach Greg? He said I was too young. I should have waited. If only I'd have waited, I could have done a show natural, decided I didn't even like it, and then I wouldn't do it. Bro, from 16 to 20, you are a totally different person. I hope this kid really knows who he is. God bless this kid. And that brings up a good point. You don't know what you're going to like when you're older. He's only 16. When he's 20, he might not even like lifting weights. He might like working out. He might not want to do it at all. Just remember, when you're a teenager and you get older into your 20s, you oftentimes will like different things than you did at that age. And so please don't use performance-enhancing drugs when you're young because you don't know what you want. You're too young. You're messing up your hormones. It's not healthy. Please wait. Now remember, when you get older, you can always use natural supplements such as Ecti Builder and GO2 Max. This will help you to build muscle, to improve your cardio naturally. It's not banned by MRADA, it's not unhealthy, it's not breaking the law. We have no known side effects from this, and so please consider something else. Interested in this? Code Greg, 10% off. Click the link in the description. Subscribe, click the bell button, comment to boost the algorithm. Also, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, watch those 2 loops for cookbooks, training books, coaching plans by me and my team, the Circle Diet book. You can get that at my website. Don't forget about the Harder Than Last Time clothing line. And until next time, I am out.